Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a second. I have just a couple of quick announcements. On your table, you guys should see a folder. That folder's for you guys for all day today. All the tables should have the slide deck with the notes page printed out for you, so you guys can take notes. Some of the key takeaways for the sessions, guys, is if you have any questions, these are going to be interactive, so you can ask the presenters any questions you have as we're going through. We should have plenty of time for some questions and answers, hopefully, at the end. We do have a real hard stop at 45 minutes since there are other sessions coming in, so we're on a pretty tight time frame. So as you guys are taking notes, please kind of think about those notes, because we are going to have breakout sessions at 3 o'clock, and we're going to use a lot of the notes that you guys are taking in all today's sessions. And pretty much with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Larry Klein, and he's going to do some introductions.
Thank you, Travis. Hello. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for turning out. Good crowd today for an 8 o'clock session. For those of you that don't know me, as Travis said, I'm Larry Klein. I'm a director of the Receivables Management Market Planning Group, and I'm really excited to have an opportunity to be part of this presentation today. As you can see from your agenda, it's leveraging collection industry trends to drive incremental sales. And we have a very savvy sales group out here. I know you guys work hard in really understanding what your customers are going through and asking those probing questions. But we always need to know more, because there's a ton of things that are happening in the industry that just move very fast. So I'm excited that we have a couple of presenters today that are going to help us understand what the market is thinking, how they're reacting to things that are happening in terms of technology, in terms of legislation, data, what's going on in the economy. Obviously has a big impact on everything, all the decisions that our customers and our prospects are making. So we have two great speakers here that I think are going to be very insightful for you. As Travis said, please pay attention. We'll have hopefully time for questions at the end. So with that, I'd like to introduce Phil Duff. Phil comes to us. He's the president and CEO of a company called Lighthouse Consulting. You guys are probably familiar with his name, with his company. He has very prolific email campaigns that go out with industry topics and his unique insight. Phil has been around for a while in the collections industry. Started, I don't want to say how long ago, but he told us last night it was back before computers were prevalent. So that'll give you a little bit of an idea. But as a hands-on collector. So he has that unique insight, and he's built up a stable of clientele that have really allowed him to become an expert and authority in what's happening in the collections industry. So we're glad that you're here, and please welcome Phil Duff.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here, glad to be asked to come and speak to you people. I was asked to speak about collection trends and challenges and some things that I see with my clients that are going on, and that's pretty much what we've put together and what we're going to move forward with here, make sure everything's going to work here properly. I am the founder of a company called Lighthouse Consulting. We're a debt brokerage and operational consulting group. I do a lot of operational consulting with collection agencies, law firms, issuers, a little bit of everybody. And basically, I'm a Six Sigma agent. I focus most of my consulting in an area basically just trying to drive profits, trying to increase profits, create better processes, whether it be a skip trace process or whether it be a collection process, in order to build profit. I've been in the industry 30 years. As Larry just pointed out, I actually started to work with GC Services in 1979, and we worked off of ledger cards. There were no computers. And I saw the first computer actually installed into GC Services, and it was wonderful. It worked great until 10 o'clock every morning. That was it, back to the ledger cards. And ledger cards are very challenging. A debtor called in, you had to find the card to even know how much he owed or what the last thing anybody said to him, and then you had to be able to read who wrote on it, talk to debtor, who knows what they wrote, figure it out. So it was very difficult back in those days, so I've seen quite a change in the industry. I work as an expert witness sometimes with, a lot of the litigation that's going on in the industry. I Once again, I'm also a regional and national debt broker, and I've written a couple books, and I speak at these type of events here and there. And that's pretty much what I do. What we're going to start out talking about are economic impacts and challenges that are affecting our industry. I mean, the first thing that's affecting not only industry but everybody else is expenses are rising and profits are declining. We're all having the same problem in our own household budget as well. So these things are continuing to go on. Our clients, your clients are having these problems. My clients are having these problems. These are the things we're all having to deal with currently in the current economy that exists. Compliance costs and lawsuits are now a line item. I mean, really, if you're doing any type of debt collection, you have to expect to be sued these days, and you have to have money in order to deal with that. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong, but it's just part of doing business now, and that's a complete change than it was a few years ago. When I started in the industry, the FDCPA had just been put in effect in 1976 by Jimmy Carter, and we didn't even know what it meant. We didn't care. We weren't compliant at all in the late 70s because nobody had really defined what it meant at that point in time. But it's clearly defined now, and there's plenty of consumer lawyers out there that are making quite a good living off of digging into our industry. Capital's hard to come by, whether you're trying to expand or you're trying to buy debt. It's very difficult to come by. The economy has changed completely, where there was plenty of capital to be had in the past that you could either build your company up or buy debt with. It's just not available out there, and that's really made a big impact in a lot of companies because a lot of debt purchase had really grown, and a lot of that debt purchase was being financed in some way, whether from individuals, banks, whatever, and it's just not happening anymore. The money is not out there. As well, there's not as many debt purchase opportunities. The issuers, even the resellers are tending to hold on to the debt. Either the issuers don't have the structure anymore to sell the debt, and basically nobody has an asset sales department anymore except Citibank. Nobody else really has someone that's dedicated to selling debt anymore from the issuer side. The resellers can't afford to sell because they bought too high. The market's dropped since then. If they sell, they're going to end up losing a lot of money. They're better off just to hold on and try to let the economy come back around. So there's not a lot of debt purchase opportunities out there. We're looking for more, but they're very limited between the amount of cash that's out there and the availability of debt to purchase. Profits are in the single digits for a lot of my clients. I had clients that were making 25, 30% profit margins, some of the debt buyers even more than that 3-4 years ago. And now I have, for example, I have a collection agency that I work with in the North Carolina area, has 150 collectors, collects almost $3 million a month, and they're taking home $20,000 in profit. One little thing goes wrong, there's no $20,000 to take home. One lawsuit, one computer glitch, one anything. And so it's really difficult for a lot of these people out there to really focus on anything other than staying afloat. A lot of them, that's really what they're trying to do. They're looking at their business of let's just stay afloat long enough for the economy to change and things to change. I talked a minute ago, a lot of the issuers, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the departments anymore that are selling these debts. And they have an increased volume of debt, but they've moved all the manpower to some other type of somewhere else within the bank. It's not in the asset sales department anymore. So there's not that manpower there to manage that debt. They are holding on to a lot of inventory at the same time. Some of the scoring models, in addition, was creating a big challenge. A lot of people were trying to work off of a scoring model, try to collect based upon what that model was showing them, the data that they can bring in. And it's just not working as well because the economy is completely different. The unemployment is so high, and the other factors that are affecting the economy, a lot of those factors were built into these models, these scoring models. And it's really creating some difficulty in those scoring models being more effective and being able actually to show that there is true value in them. People are working around that. It's slowly happening, and they've even changed FICO. Everything is slowly changing in that direction. But it's creating a lot of difficulty when you're looking at increased volume and trying to figure out how to deal with that increased volume. Increased volume creates profit instability. You're unsure when you're trying to collect this type of debt, whether you're working it from a debt purchase, an issuer, or whatever, exactly what your profits are going to be. As your volume increases, your ability to actually go through that debt and go through it in a quality manner decreases. And in most cases, unless you can increase your staff, increase your processes, which most people aren't able to do. They're not very good at building scalable processes. One thing that I do as a consultant is do exactly that. I try to build a process that's going to grow and shrink as the volume grows and shrinks. Additional data is difficult to get the information when they have a reduced budget. And we're really trying to dig through twice the volume, and I've got the same amount or less budget. It's very difficult for these issuers, the debt buyers, all of these people to get through this and actually figure out what to scrub, what not to scrub, and how to scrub it. And that's really creating a lot of segmentation within the industry. There's always been the old rule from the collection world, especially post-charge-off, where you're talking about that 80% of your money comes from 20% of your accounts. And so we've always been trying to find that 20% that's going to give me 80% of my money so that I can focus on that. I can spend my budget on that. I can send more letters. I can do more scrubs. I can spend more effort to find those debtors and collect that money because I know it's the correct volume. Well, the difficulty of scoring and all that is making this a little bit more difficult to happen. And also the increase in volume is making it a lot more difficult to happen. As I talked about, the scoring models are becoming much different. So what this has created is a situation in the market where we're all looking for right party contacts. We need to be able to find out how to reach that debtor directly. So let's define what a right party contact is. It's a good home number. It's a verified address. It's a good employment information, whether it be a phone number or address in order to reach them. Any type of assets they may have, a car, a house, etc. That's what we're looking for in the industry right now to hone in on. These are the things that my clients seem to be most concerned about trying to create that because they know good and well that that right party contact is going to equal, in most cases, cash. It's going to equal that debtor making some type of arrangement. Also in the collection biz, one thing we love, in order to segment accounts, everything's about segmentation, we'll get into that in a minute, but in order to segment, even if you can get a right party contact, if you can get the debtor on the phone, even if he doesn't pay, if we can segment that account and say this guy has no intention of paying, it's a dispute, he says it's fraud, whatever, if you can segment that off, then you've also done just as good a job as collecting it by knowing it's not going to happen in this manner. Maybe that's an account now that has assets, has employment, it's going to have to go through a legal strategy in order for something to happen. So there's a lot of challenges in reaching debtors. We used to be able to, when I started in 1979, you dialed the phone, and literally we were dialing the phone, believe it or not. And, somebody would answer the phone. Somebody was always home, and so everybody's home number or work number. If they weren't there, then somebody would take a message and they would call you back. It's much more difficult now. We have all these things that are blocking our ability to get to the debtor. Everything from caller ID to cell phones and a volume of junk mail that's out there. Mailing letters to debtors is virtually not effective anymore. It's a little more effective in the issuer level, but post-charge-off, it has very little effect anymore. In fact, most agencies are sending a very minimal amount of letters nowadays. They're honing in on that little bit of accounts they believe are more collectible and spending a little bit of money on letters, but they're not. The difficulties in just reaching a debtor are tremendous. So going back to that, what we really need to be able to do is create a right party contact. That's what really is driving most of my clients. Merger and acquisitions are high, and it's probably going to continue for a while. What I see happening in the industry right now is kind of a change back to what I started in the early 70s or late 70s in the industry, where there were three big collection agencies. At that point in time, it was GC Services, American Creditors Bureau, and Payco American. And they pretty much had all the national clients. If you were an American Express, or if you were a Visa MasterCard type client, or you were Shell Oil, you were with one of these clients. And it's kind of headed back that way because the banks are shrinking down the amount of outsourcers they're using, the amount of agencies and law firms. They're trying to shrink their compliance issues, trying to shrink that liability for maybe an agency or a law firm out there that's a little bit in the gray area. They don't want to deal with those compliances. They want to shrink it in tight. They're also requiring more and more to head towards these very expensive compliance issues, these PCI compliance, SAS 70, these types of things, which the smaller agencies are just not going to be able to afford. I mean, it's extremely expensive to even consider any of these types of things. So as the banks and the larger issuers, the larger placers of debt, period, start to ask for this type of activity, what's happening is the big are getting bigger and the small are getting smaller, and the small are getting eaten up. The debt buyer population right now is having a lot of M&A activity because right now you can buy a whole company of a struggling debt buyer and you're basically just paying for the debt. You're getting whatever processes they have, software and employees, if you want them or not. Most of them are just being flushed. They're not really using anything except the debt. But you can buy it for the cost of the debt right now. So there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and that's going to continue over the next couple of years until I think we end up with several large players and a lot of regional players that are working the smaller type clients, the non-national type clients. Issuers are reducing their risk by decreasing collective partners, exactly what I was just talking about. The other thing I'm seeing in the market is I'm seeing some partnerships finally. You know, collection agencies and debt buyers have always been very quiet. They didn't never want to share the secret sauce. They didn't want to tell anybody how they were collecting. Everybody figured they had something they were doing different that made their niche or made their availability of making more money than everybody else. In most cases, because I've been in hundreds of shops, it's pretty much the same thing. They're just doing it slightly different. They think they're doing it slightly different, but the bottom line is the process is the process. And as the compliancy has built into our industry, how we have to do it's almost structured now. So there's not a lot of difference. It's just a little slight difference in the quality of the collector or the quality of the process. But I've seen partnerships emerging between some fairly large debt buyers where they were previously, but they might get together, 2 or 3 of them, and make a large purchase together. They might purchase from Chase or Collect America and purchase a large file together. But they wouldn't, all they were doing was just sharing capital to get a better price. Now they're actually sharing analytics. I've recently had a large purchase that I helped broker and happen, and there were 4 partners in there, 4 very experienced debt buyers. Each one of them scored the whole file themselves. Then they all got together and shared those scores and decided what that really meant. Everybody had their own proprietary scoring system that they'd created from years and years of their own collections, and they had different views. Some took a litigation mode, some just took a collection mode. But they got together and decided what was best out of that portfolio, and they whittled down a $100 million portfolio down to $50 million and decided that's what they wanted to buy. They paid a premium to the seller and bought it, and they've done that 4 times now, and they've made their money back in 9 months, which right now is very good. It used to be the norm, but now that would be above the norm. So it's really working, and it's very interesting to see everyone basically sharing the secret sauce, being able to say, here's how we do it, here's how you do it, why do you do it that way, and then to look at them and say, well, I valued this account as an 8, you valued it as a 6, why? And to understand. So it's very interesting. I thought it was interesting also from a standpoint where you guys are coming from, because I mean, I know one of these companies in general spent $30,000 scrubbing this file. It's a lot of money. I mean, that was enough money, really, in most cases, to have made all the decisions with. But I'm sure the other companies spent 30, 20 as well. So it was really a lot of money spent and analytics spent on the file, something I've never seen before, but also the interesting part of people actually trying to work together to collect the portfolio to its maximum, which is really what we've all got to do now. Debtor payments are now the norm. You know, it used to be settlements where everybody was trying to go a few years ago. You just got to get the debtor paying now. You've got to break the cycle of non-payment. So that's make a complete change in the industry. It's expensive to take payments, and it's really changed how a lot of agencies and even the issuers are doing business, because the more payments you have to take, the more people it takes, the more processes it takes. People are being pushed now. They want to pay on a website. They want to pay in some type of a virtual situation, and that's the way the industry is going as well. We'll talk about that more in a second. Charge-offs are going to be reducing in the next year. The issuers that I'm talking to are saying, listen, we have not been originating much debt in the last couple of years. We've cleaned up a lot of what we have. The debtors that are paying are tending to pay their balances down. Average balances in the industry are dropping. You guys are probably all doing the same thing I'm doing. I've paid all my credit cards down to nothing as well. And the industry in general, that's what's going on. There's still plenty of debt out there. There's large inventories that are still with these issuers. There's still large inventories that are with debt resellers and buyers because they can't get rid of them. Either the issuers don't have the availability or can't get what they're looking for out of the debt. They don't have the people to work the process, and or the resellers just bought at such a range 2 or 3 years ago that there's just no possibility based upon the current pricing that they're going to get rid of this debt and actually make any money. So there's a lot of accounts that are warehouse. There's a lot of accounts that are just literally laying around, whether it be with the issuers or it be with the debt buyers. A lot of them will put them in some other type of a program to just literally warehouse them, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, exactly what they're doing with the warehouse part. The real trend in our industry, and has been for the last couple of years, is segmentation. It's trying to take that file and slice and dice it into a bunch of different segments, find a different process for each segment that's going to create money. Perfect example of that's bankruptcy. Years ago, bankruptcy is something everybody just slid over the side and said, oh well, they didn't do anything with. Now they all see a lot of process in working those bankruptcy accounts and getting money from them. But literally, it's come to the point now where we're segmenting in hundreds of different ways. I mean, we're segmenting by balance range, we're segmenting by people who have employment, we're segmenting by people who have cars. I mean, we're segmenting by a little bit of everything. You guys are very good. You've got a lot of products that fit into a lot of these categories. Foreclosure, we've been segmenting by deceased for quite a long time. Of course, the age of the account, homeowners, collectability scores, whether you can really contact the debtor, public records. There's a lot of information that's been going on. Warehouse monitoring, which we'll talk about in just a minute, which I said a lot of these accounts are sitting in some type of a monitoring situation or a warehouse program. But that's really where the value is in a portfolio right now. If you're not segmenting, if you're not taking your portfolio and cutting it up as many ways as you possibly can and creating a different process for each one of those based upon the return, because you've got only, you can take your low balance accounts and we can send one letter on them. If we send 3 letters on them, we may not ever make $1. If we send 1 letter, we may collect less, but we may make more money. So you've got to look at each segment and find a way to work that segment, and that's really what things are going on about now. That's the biggest portion of the industry right now. We keep creating new settlements, debt settlement accounts, all these different segments are now, we're creating more of them, but that's what's really going on in the industry. There's been some advances in technology, virtual collectors. If you're taking payments now and you don't have a website up 24/7 taking those payments for you, you're behind the times. I understand you guys have something like that coming very soon, along with some software that you're going to be able to provide. You've got to have a virtual collector out there. You've got to have the ability to negotiate a payment. If there's a $600 arrangement, you've got to be able to put in information as a debt collector that says, listen, we'll take 3 payments of $200 if they come in at 4 o'clock in the morning and that's what they want to do. We'll accept it. We'll take the checks. We'll do everything with no collector and, of course, no cost. That's probably the hottest thing that's happened over the last year or two. There's still a few people that are, a good percentage of the people that haven't gone on to that yet. A lot of my law firm clients are just now realizing that even exists, much less even thinking about adding it to their repertoire. So there's still a lot of people out there that have not figured this out, but it's probably one of the most needed things that are out there. Everything shows that consumers prefer to pay in this type of a method. Probably you. I travel constantly. If I didn't have everything set up to automatically pay online or to pay stuff online, if I had to wait to get home to get a bill, I'd have the worst credit in the collection business just because I'm not there. So I love all that. It's perfect for me. I mean, I have everything just to automatically pay. The only person I have to pay is the guy that does my lawn because he just will not let me pay him any other way. And he aggravates me to death because I literally have to go out of town, leave a check stuck in the door for 4 days, and he's going to come by and cut the lawn and pick up the $50 check. That's the only check I write. But that's the way that we're all headed. We're all headed that direction. Payday loan data is something we looked at in the industry a few years ago as payday loans. This will never last. It's just not going to be something that's going to last, but it seems to be. The data is very fresh because of the way it's taken. Pretty much payday loans are taken from a lead generation company. You go onto a website, you give them your name, your address, your bank account information, and they verify all of this before they give you the loan. So if you can get that information later from a collection standpoint, and then you've got good, fresh information that was verified very recently, and that's being used throughout the industry quite a bit now. Dialer technology is improving as we have learned that we've got to save money. People that were not embracing a dialer are now embracing a dialer. There's still a lot of compliance issues with a dialer, but the technology is improving. There's a lot of different things out there with some of these dialers that will allow you to email, to to gather a lot of different information from how that dialer works, from leaving messages to creating a lot of information coming back. That data that's mined coming back is probably one of the most important things that's really happening different with dialer technology. Waterfalls are definitely the norm now. It used to be that very few people had a waterfall, and now everybody has a waterfall. Everybody's trying to find the right mix. And it's a little different everywhere, honestly. I see a lot of clients that have some effective waterfalls, but it's somewhat, in some cases, a little bit regional. I find someone way out west that if they're using these 3 vendors, they'll get a better return, and in the south, maybe these 3 vendors. And I think that a lot also has to do with what you're working, what type of debt you're working. But the bottom line is, what everybody wants to do with the waterfalls, get the highest return for the cheapest amount of money first and work down to, the more expensive scrubs. I mean, there's plenty of scrubs out there that are pennies or pieces of a penny, and there's plenty of scrubs out there that are $30 or $40. And so, everybody takes the, knowledge that if I can find it for 2 pennies, why pay 30 bucks for it, But, in the old days, people would just pay the 30 bucks for it. But we all have a waterfall now. Everybody's trying to improve their waterfall. Every one of my clients, it's one of the first things they say is, evaluate our waterfall. How well is it working? And what they want me to do is look at it and tell them it's a better vendor. What I try to do is go in and look at effectiveness. Okay, here's the information you got. Here's what you paid for it. What was the ROI on it? What did you really return from it? Because that's really the important part. Part of the whole issue with data is data. If it's consumer data, it's consumer data. If it's a phone number, it's a phone number. If it's an address, it's an address. Is it a good one or a bad one? That's kind of the difference. The real difference in data is the quality and the cost. From the collection world, from my client's point of view, they don't really care where the data came from. They care how much it cost and how much it returned to them. And that's really what it's all about, is trying to figure out what the cost and what the return is. Liquidation rate from that data is what they're looking for, that return. Most of my clients would pay $30 for, phone numbers and addresses if they knew every time the debtor was going to pay. No problem with that at all. I'd pay that for every account in the whole portfolio if we knew we're going to get a return for it, if they knew we're going to make money. And so that's really what's most important to the industry at the moment. More vendors are mining their own databases anymore. It used to be nobody would mine into their own database and try to figure things out. One of the things I teach my clients is, kind of create your own scoring model. Take a score from here, take some data from here, take some information from here, but the real thing you need to figure out is what you're good at collecting. Because if your law firm or your collection agency is only good at collecting people with the first name John who live in zip code 32085, who have balances between 300 and 600, and charged off 48 months ago and had an open account that was 120 days and made 1 payment since charge-off, then that's the only clients you need to worry about. If that's all you can collect, that's all you need to worry about. But you need to be able to, first of all, mine your own data to figure that out. So people are doing that now. They're trying to figure out what they're doing and why they're doing it and how it's working. And that's something that's completely changed from years ago. Most everybody is on some kind of SQL database, or they're dumping stuff into a SQL database that they can then that data mine. And once again, we talked about it a minute ago, there's still a very high value in right party contact. What we've got to do, no matter what we're doing there, is get the debtor on the phone. Because even if we think he'll pay, if we can't get him on the phone, it doesn't do us any good in the industry. So we've got to dig through all this data, and we've got to find the data that's going to end up getting us the right party contact we're looking for. One of my friends in the industry, he said this to me at a conference, and then I saw it posted later, pretty much the same thing he had said in Inside Arm. And what he's talking about and what I've talked about in the past is we've all got to work together based upon the liquidation of the portfolio. I recently, at a webinar that I had a couple hundred people attend, and it was all talking about basically trying to partner in the industry. If you'll take the different pieces of the puzzle in the industry, and we can all get together. If you can take the portfolio owner, you can take the collection agent, you can take whatever vendors that may be involved in the process, and we can all work together to do one thing: liquidate the portfolio. Then there's money we can share in. There's more money that we can spend to the vendor. There's more money that the collection agent can get as cost to spend with vendors. to collect more money, to get more debtors on the phone. If this can happen, then if we can collect the portfolio at a higher rate, then we can all share, we can be partners in the process. And that's really what I'm seeing happening more in the industry as well, is that the vendors, the collection agents, and the owners of the portfolios are trying to work together to find a way to liquidate the portfolio at its highest possible rate. Because once again, like I said, ROI is king. You know, making money is what it's all about. If you can increase the returns, then there's more money to spend, there's more money to share, et cetera. So let's talk about what ROI is. It's liquidation rates, it's RPC, it's savings of time, it's quality of data. All these things are going to bring about a return, the return that the debt buyer, the debt owner, the debt collector is looking for. Profit increases, of course, are you know, the bottom line of what we're talking about with an ROI. So let's talk a little bit about what the conclusions to all this are. You know, I think you as LEXIS NEXIS, what you need to be able to do is align yourself with the customer's needs and budget. You know, they not only have needs, but they have a very specific budget in most cases. They know what they can spend based upon their intention of ROI. You've got to work within that. You've got to understand it. You've got to ask your clients these things. You've got to align yourself with these things. You've got to align yourself clearly with their needs and budgets. You're going to have shared goals. You're going to have to say, listen, okay, you're looking for this much liquidation and you're expecting this information to provide this much cash. You're going to spend $1,000. You're going to make $10,000. You know, share these goals with them. Understand and say, listen, we can help you get there. We have the products. We have the availability of the data that you're looking for, you know, so that you can be the customer's partner. You can partner with them to the end result of collecting that portfolio, like I talked about a minute ago. If that happens, it's very easy for your client to want to come back to you, to want to share this again with you, because you see it yourself as a partner. You see yourself as being part of the process and sharing these mutual goals. If you can set clear expectations up front, if you can get your client to say, here's exactly what I'm trying to do. Here's the issues. Here's the end result we're trying to get to. And you can say, listen, I feel confident from our past results, our data, that we can get you to this level. Make sure everything is very clear. You know, to just say, I'm sure we can do a better job for you is not good enough these days. You've got to provide data. You've got to provide information. You've got to qualify what you're saying. Anytime you're talking to anyone, it's one thing I teach with collector training. You have to qualify or quantify what you're talking about. It becomes more real, more believable. Once again, remember that ROI is king. We're really just trying to create profits. We're trying to create a return on whatever money that we're spending. And that's exactly how most of my clients look at it. I'm spending money. What am I going to get back from it? You've got to keep that in your mind at all times. And I think the last thing I think is perfect for what the name of your conference is, Be the Difference. I think you've got to be the difference in the overall return that client's going to get. I think you've got to be this partner. You've got to align yourself with mutual goals and set clear expectations. And I think if you will be the difference of how they do business, of how they're going to make a return, then you really will have won, and you will really have a customer that's going to be a customer for life. So that's kind of the majority of what I was trying to say and get across to you. Mainly I'm just trying to tell you what I see in the industry, and the reason that we could take this to the next level is we've brought Brad on to kind of talk to you guys and how this relates to the changes, or how you're going to use this information to be the difference with your customer. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Brad Blacker at this point in time, and he's going to, I have no idea what he's going to tell you, but he's going to tell you something that has something to do with what I said.
Thanks, Phil. All right, so I'm going to spend the next 3.5 hours talking about what I think the market trends are, and I'm just kidding. So I want to do this relatively quick, because I'd like to get a chance, if you guys have questions while we have the true expert on the stage, be able to ask those of him. But I did want to talk about what I think are the 3 of the most relevant trends to us today within the industry that we service. There's obviously a significant change to our market space. There's a lot of things that are going on that really do impact what we're trying to do. I think in my experience, one of the most important changes that I see today is really the change in a desire to create new and different revenue footprints, looking for new places to service and new opportunities out there. That brings a tremendous opportunity for us to really advance our revenue and meet our revenue goals. When you talk about different markets that these agencies are looking to serve, we're really looking at more of a healthcare focus. We're looking at stuff like attorney networks. We're looking at really anywhere new and different that they can kind of gain some revenue. With the change in contingency rates and the lack of capability now to be as profitable as our clients used to be, it's really important for these companies to start and to continue to look for additional revenue sources. What does that mean to us? Really, it's an opportunity for us to look at different data sources. I mean, let's be honest about it. Our core data is phone, bankruptcy, address, deceased. Those are data sets that are really competitive in the market space right now. There's a lot of competition out there that quite frankly can do it, not as good as us, but certainly can provide a service. So we've got to look and be prepared to look for those additional revenue sources for us that are in line with those new revenue footprints. So when you talk to people and they're starting to establish an attorney network, look for judgments, look for liens, look for property, look for the things that are important. The other thing we need to look for is segmentation. So look for additional places to sell additional data sets that really are a little bit outside of our core kind of data sets. The second thing I think that we see a lot of with our clients today is really a change in a focus of looking to advance revenue yields and unit yields. The need for efficiency today in our market, at least with my clients, is so significant. Those margins are really shrinking down. You're not looking at 33% margins anymore. Now you're talking 5, 6, 7% margins, really small. So they're really looking to advance those unit yields. That's really where our solution-based products are starting to come into play. Our collect point, our virtual collector, anywhere that we can find efficiencies to help them really generate a much better unit yield. And the third one that I wanted to talk a little bit about, and this is one that's interesting for me, especially because with NCO, this is something they've done pretty consistently, and that's the merger and acquisition phase. We're seeing a lot more mergers and acquisitions, and really, from an industry perspective, it's something that we see is going to happen even further. That is why our resources are so important to us, because that stickiness and that expertise our resources bring in to our clients today are really creating a differentiation between us and what our competition. I mean, let's face it, February 15th is probably not going to be a real fun time frame for us, right? You've got some agencies or some companies out there that are really going to explode into the market and try and they've said they're going directly after us. I mean, TLO is going to come after us with everything they've got. So we have to be able right now to start setting those differentiations. And the only way we can do that is with our product, our people, and our technology, because quite frankly, it's better. So our clients are really looking for us, and this is a great time, as soon as you walk out of the sales meeting, to put together a plan where you have some transactional clients that you're a little bit exposed, that are going to go through that merger and acquisition process and really start getting yourself sticky and make sure that you're in a place where you can capitalize on all three of our top resources. And those are really kind of, from my perspective, what I see as the top 3 generating trends. And I know we've got about 5 minutes, so I'm going to wrap this up really quick. But again, I think if you go out there and you're looking for those revenue footprint expansions that are going to give you some additional data sets, you look at those folks that are really trying to optimize their unit yields and look to really take some of our solution-based, especially some of our new products that are coming out, and then you look to those merger and acquisition activities and really try to capitalize on those. I do believe that it's a market, even with the trends changing, that we can continue to dominate. So I think with that, Larry, did you want to throw it out there for questions?
Terrific.
Cool.
Terrific. Thank you, Brad. Thanks. Oh, very good. How much time do we have? 1 minute. So we don't want to lose an opportunity. So does anybody have any questions we can answer for you while we have the group up here? Raise your hand. Okay, Mike.
This is for Phil. I know there's a lot of discussion in the industry about alternate contact channels. Have you seen any customers that are using text and email? And if so, what type of success are they enjoying?
Yeah, are people using text and email? You're seeing that? I'm seeing some using it, very seldom. People are scared a little bit right now. I think that there's, I have a couple compliance attorneys that I deal with constantly, and I'm constantly, helping my clients and try to understand these types of issues. I think we're definitely headed that direction, but it's not happening with probably less than 10% of anybody that I know. I think that it will, but it's just not happening right now. And the text is difficult because you can't get the compliance. There's not enough characters. That's where the problem is with the text. Anybody else got some questions? Not necessarily all for me, but
We have one
whoever.
right here. Leslie? We can hear you. We'll repeat it.
I was just wondering, the consumer has a lot of lobbyists and everything protecting them now from debt and everything. I know ACA and DBA have lobbies. Have you heard anything positive about these predatory attorneys out there that are consumer attorneys that are like settle with us for $7,000?
Well, yeah. So the question is, how is the industry dealing with the predatory consumer attorneys that are attacking our industry? And it's completely different. In most cases, the thing to do is just pay. The cheaper thing to do is honestly just pay, because I can make the case go away, the attorney go away, and all for $3,000 or $4,000. If I walk into court, it's going to cost me many, many more times than that. So that's what's happening. Once in a while, if the same attorney is turning you into an annuity, what I suggest to my clients do is go ahead and fight back one time, so at least they'll go somewhere else for a little while. They'll come back, but at least they'll head somewhere else for a little while. There's not a good solution. In fact, I'm really working myself to try to figure some of that out. I'm actually going to consumer law. I'm actually speaking at one of their conferences very soon for two reasons. They want to learn the same thing you guys want to learn, what's going on in the industry. And secondly, I want to learn what they're doing and where they're headed, because that'll help me defend a lot of those things as well. And I do work as an expert witness for both sides once in a while. I'll work for, even if it's the consumer side, I'll work for them if they're right. And there's quite often that that they are right. Not near as much as the volume of accounts suits they file. Rob.
First of all, thank you too. Thanks for all.
You're welcome, sir.
Quick question here. We have this mountain of debt that came through, kind of like the pig and the snake. A lot of it wasn't working. They did cherry picking. Are they going to come back to it?
Without a doubt. So the question is, there's a lot of debt that's warehoused out there, and are the issuers, all the debt buyers, going to come back to it? Without a doubt. Most of them have put it in some type of a trigger program. You have some of those types of programs, monitoring programs, that are allowing them, when anything changes with that consumer's data, to see that information. They're pulling it back out and working it that way. And that's where a lot of that debt is. Most of it will probably hit the market again before it moves out of statute. Are we about out of time, I think? All right, perfect.
Wrap it up.
I enjoyed speaking to everyone. Great for the opportunity. I hope I'm invited back again next year. I would love to be here. I hope you guys learned a little something. I'm easy to contact. If you want to contact me, you can Google me very easily, or you can get with Larry or one of the other people and find out how to reach me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, everyone has about 15 minutes to get to your next session, so you can take your notes in your folder there and head out to your next session.